Most people haven't experienced an emotion without the clenching. The mistake that I made was mistaking calm on the surface for kind of not being triggered. When we're in this adrenalized kind of sympathetic go state, the adrenaline and cortisol literally numbs the interoception.
Right.
So it's harder to listen to your body tickled with a feather, and then it's a brick, you lose your job, and then maybe the dump truck, chronic health issue, or something majorly breaks. I'm obsessed with freediving. I think of it as actually like high stakes meditation. There are significant non-trivial consequences if you clench 100 feet plus underwater. For me, usually the tension is kind of my so I drop in there and then relax it, and then the breath can go and I can keep going down. One of the most effective ways to access deep parasympathetic is by having a weight on your. And I went from having a 90-second breath hold to 6.5 minutes.
Jonny Miller, he taught more than 1,000 people how to master their nervous systems.
So much of what I teach with nervous system mastery can be boiled down to, can you notice the tension, learn how to unclench?
You're listening to The Human Upgrade with Dave Asprey.
Jonny Miller is the host of the Inner Frontier podcast, and he's taught more than 1,000 people how to master their nervous systems. We're going to talk about nervous system mastery, which is something that is critical for longevity. So if you're into biohacking, you're into longevity, and you think, oh, I take the right supplements, I intermittent fast, I've got my hot, my cold, my red lights, all this stuff, your peptides even, but your nervous system is just all over the place, you're doing it wrong. So we're going to go deep on that. Jonny, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
And you've had so many different stories that highlight your path. What happened when you lost your fiancée and you just went numb? What's that like?
Yeah. Diving right in. Yeah. I mean, so in 2017, my fiancée had bipolar disorder, and she went back to work. She had an anxiety attack. She was working as a junior doctor in the UK, and she took her own life that afternoon while I was traveling. And so for me, I just, it was devastating. As you can imagine. And in the beginning, I think the way that I responded was to go numb and to kind of like, it was too much to feel in that. And I think there's almost like a healthy denial when something really bad like that happens, where your system takes over and you just kind of shut down so that you don't have to feel the intensity.
Right.
But I remembered seeing adults who had lost someone close to them, lost a loved one, and they hadn't fully processed it. And I felt like there was this like lack of aliveness, or this like bitterness that had kind of built up. And I was afraid, I think, of becoming that person who didn't metabolize the grief. And so I kind of did a 180 and went into that, and I kind of made it my objective, I guess, to honor her and also to learn how to become, I think, less numb from the neck down.
Are you still numb?
Less numb than I was. Yeah. So
one of the most impactful books I've seen for dealing with just big stuff is Letting Go by David Hawkins. You've come across his work?
I've come across his work, yeah.
That's a powerful book for that. And I haven't lost someone really close to me like that, and I can only imagine how devastating it is. And I've worked with 1,400 high-performing people who've been through all kinds of stuff over the last 10 years of running 40 years of Zen, where we're looking at their brain waves, or we're talking about the states, we're shifting states.
Yep.
And what I teach is that numbness or even like apathy is like the lowest level of vibration, and the body goes there because it's overwhelmed, right? And then the path of coming back and then feeling all of the feelings is what David Hawkins talks about in Letting Go, where if you can just feel everything, he says it takes 20 minutes to fully do something, but that very few people can feel everything in 20 minutes, right?
Easier said than done.
Exactly. And so it's a path of becoming less numb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and then eventually learning to find gratitude in everything. And that's the hardest thing. I not the same, but I had $100 million lesson in discernment. Like I lost $100 million.
Wow.
because I made some poor decisions about which investors and who to trust. And I could look at that, and I definitely got some numbness from that. And I look at it now as how few humans get $100 million lesson, right? So you can buy a rocket ship, sure, or a super yacht, but I got the lesson, right? And it is around just feeling everything, and eventually, there's always a reason. So
I think that feeling everything is the journey, and it is such a journey. And I think for me, what I teach with nervous system mastery is that I think there is a discrete set of skills that we can learn, and it's not necessarily a linear path. But for me, learning about interoception, right? Like learning that there are practices that you can do. Meditation is one path, but there are many others where you can increase your sensory clarity over your the feedback that's coming from your body, this kind of like bottom-up signaling that is constantly giving you information. And when any of us learn to habitually override that, we're missing out on a lot of the feedback. And I think once that starts to come online, and once I talk about the skills as being interoception, self-regulation, which is basically increasing your capacity, and then emotional fluidity, which is the feeling piece. But it's really about, how can you not clench? How can you welcome all of the experience as it's coming in real time? And when there is clenching, how do you work skillfully with that so that it kind of opens up?
It's such a beautiful model the way you're explaining it, because interoception, that felt sense of what's happening inside the body, is one of the seats of intuition. Right. And we learn from a very young age to immediately shut that down because there's a much stronger emotion. And then there's a story that backs up the emotion. Yeah. And the emotion can be numbness. And people often wouldn't say that's an emotion, but it is. It's just a low vibration emotion, right? And I didn't have any interoception that I was aware of until I was 30 or so and started.
Wow. What was your journey? Like, how did you shift it?
Well, I went to a 10-day personal development workshop, having done no personal development and being mostly atheist, little agnostic. And we did holotropic breath work and internal family systems and like rebirthing and like all of the hippiest at the time. It was very cutting edge transpersonal psychology. Yeah. And I just came out of that going, oh my God, I have a lot of stuff to learn. Yeah. And the biggest lesson maybe was I was in a room where people were banging on pillows with like wiffle ball bats and screaming. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm a computer science guy. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like, seriously, like, come on. But and I was angry. I was angry a lot because that was like the only emotion I really understood. And because anger can hide sadness very, very well. Yes. And then numbness can hide anger and sadness, right? And
vice versa. I think the sadness hides anger sometimes.
Yeah, too. It can be both, right? And that's why it's confusing. And so I just was unaware of all those things, but I just couldn't be in the room because I couldn't stand all these people wailing. And these 3 wise women facilitators, they're like, okay, maybe you could just sit in the room. And I'm like, I am a grown ass man. I'm big enough to probably kill anyone in the room, right? Like, whatever. Like, why do I just feel? So they put pillows on me and like laid on me like a weighted blanket, vagal nerve calming. And then they said, "Are you feeling anything?" I said, "Yes, anger."
It's working.
Like, this is stupid. And they said, well, there's another feeling, like anything in your body. And this is why the story came to mind. I said, yeah, there's a weird feeling in my stomach, right? This is the interoception, just what we're talking about. And I think it was Barbara Van Dyson, who I found out later was the founder of the American Pre- and Perinatal Psychology Association. So she studied birth trauma for 30 years and just happened to pick me out because I had birth trauma, and she could tell by looking at me. And it was really crazy because she looks at me and she goes, "There's a name for that feeling in your stomach." I said, "Well, really? What is it?" She said, "It's fear." And I said, "There's nothing in here to be afraid of. It can't be fear." And she says, "Fear is an emotion. It doesn't have to be logical." And I was like, oh no, my whole worldview.
Your whole worldview just gets crushed.
Yes. Okay. So my entire model of reality is bullshit. I got to do some work. And I don't think there would be biohacking if it wasn't for Barbara and it wasn't for my elders in the longevity movement, people 2 generations older than me, the leaders in the field teaching me longevity in my 20s because I was so fat and sick and all that. But that led me down this incredible path of interoception and naming the physical sense in the body for every emotion. And when we teach people here at 40 Years of Zen, there's a list of emotions on the wall in our facilitation room. And like, okay, don't just say I'm feeling this. Exactly what is the nuanced feeling and where is it? What is its nature? And what I've found over time is that when I can fully feel those things, then you learn that you can transform them. And eventually you gain control of your energy field. So it's not just about sensing, it's about changing, right? And you can move your energy field all over the place. And that's where not just intuition, but things that people would say are magical powers come from, right? And when I say magical powers, these are the yogic cities, like the abilities that people manifest reliably over time. Just not everyone manifests them. So it's become an interesting journey, but I'm happy you talked about interoception because I haven't thought of this in a long time.
Yeah, I love that story. And the analogy that I like is if you imagine you're going to culinary school and that you're training to be a chef and you're kind of training your palate.
Yes.
There's ways that you can like refine your sensitivity over salt or different flavors or umami. And it's the same with the internal state. There is this like beautiful palette of flavors that we can access. And having language for it, I agree, really helped. Like having the emotional granularity, at least Feldman Barrett talks about. I think it's very helpful. But it really is just about like a refined kind of tasting of all of the different sensations.
Like there's a difference between jealousy and envy, right? And there's a difference between embarrassment and shame, right? And most people, they're just all munged up into discomfort.
Yeah. And I think there's also another trap in, I work with very intellectual, very kind of heady people.
Yeah.
And there's a trap in thinking that if you can just find the right label for the emotion, you don't have to feel it. and so it's like, if I can find the perfect label, then and just observe it neutrally, then maybe it'll just kind of go away. And so there's like layers and layers of the journey.
Yeah, being a Silicon Valley computer hacker and getting started there, I remember I was coaching this one high-level engineering guy, and I had him do heart rate variability training, like a good amount of it for about 6 weeks. And we got on our coaching call, and he goes, I think I experienced bliss. And at least at that time in Silicon Valley, engineers don't experience bliss. Like no, we are logical, we are rational, we do our things. Spock is there for a reason. And it was so cool because it's this idea that changing your internal state. There's all these things that may not have labels, and you may have learned since you were 1 year old to ignore. Yeah, like they're not in your universe, but they're in your body.
Yeah, totally. And going back to the grief story, one of my most powerful experiences was walking up to her memorial bench. This was a few months after the memorial, and I just like let the wave, almost like the tsunami of grief through, and I kind of stopped resisting. And there was this sense of like deep love, but almost bliss in a way that I was kind of confused, because I was like, wait, I'm meant to be feeling shit and this really terrible thing happened, but in my body it feels just like it's like this outpouring of love.
Yeah.
And it was kind of confusing because, like you, I was rational, all of those things, and it like broke my model of what like negative emotions were. Yeah. And I think that, along with a few other things, kind of like kickstarted my journey into this like internal exploration.
I've gotten to the point after a lot of unusual spiritual experiences over the years where I celebrate death the same way I celebrate birth. Like if you're born, you're going to die. Like I'm not in the the don't die at any cost thing, because dying is a part of being alive. You don't get one without the other. And so I go straight into gratitude, even if it's okay, like there's a loss, which is kind of like a selfish loss. Like, well, I didn't want that. Well, who cares what I wanted? It's like the other person. What did they want? They got whatever they wanted, right? And even if we don't see it, there's probably a reason. But just being grateful for everything. And my mom passed earlier this year, and Like I, as far as I can tell, I processed all of the grief, but there wasn't a lot of grief because it was just like, wow, like she passed in a way that was way more peaceful than I thought she was capable of. Like she had this lovely shift towards the end to not be fearful, which had been a hallmark of a lot of her life. She just dropped it, and I was like, wow, like how beautiful is that? And so, it maybe it made grieving easier, but it just felt right. And you never know what you're going to feel if someone passes, especially unexpectedly. And I had the gift of knowing it was coming. So
that's beautiful. I mean, I think of grieving as almost, it's like a shedding of aspects of our identity. I think that's what grief is. It's like a dying of layers of the identity. When I was grieving Sophie, it was like the future that I imagined we would have together. Yeah. It was aspects of me that were like my life rafts. And that life raft was like being obliterated.
What was the role of your community in helping you grieve?
Yeah, thank you. Friggin' essential. Yeah. Friggin' essential. I remember my buddy Charlie, he got on a train from London. It was like a 3-hour train, knocked on my door and just gave me a casserole dish and gave me a hug. I sat down for a cup of tea and then went back home. And just like that happening kind of over and over again. I think of co-regulation as one of the most effective ways to increase nervous system capacity to feel safe so that we can feel the things that are too intense for us to feel on our own. And so, I'm so grateful that I had friends and family around me. And I think actually, I felt closer to my friends and family during and on the other side of this process than I ever had in my life. Like it actually took something really challenging. It took me having to reach out and like having to ask for help, honestly, in order to actually create deeper connections. And then having friends show up in certain ways was, I just felt so fortunate.
Yeah, I think friends can take a decade off of a grieving process. A really close friend had his daughter pass in similar circumstances. I just remember, me and a couple other friends just holding him, and he just let it out. And it's a pretty spiritually advanced friend. And he's like, wow, I think that just was 3 years of grieving in a couple hours. But man, it's kind of a sacred thing to be able to hold someone in their grief like that.
It is. And it's really heart-wrenchingly beautiful to witness someone in that degree of like lament is the word that I think of, which we don't really use in the West. Yeah. But when you see someone fully let go into the grief, it is this like, it's almost like a birth. It's like a primal experience where an energy that is maybe more powerful, like very hard to put your finger on, is moving through someone. And on the other side, there is this freedom and this beauty. And even though it's terrible and heart-wrenching, it is like, it's like nourishing in a weird way.
Yeah. It's all energy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
When you process it right. You work mostly with Silicon Valley engineering guys, which are my people, right? Like I said, very heady. Like, why would I pay attention to what's happening below my neck? Because it's not very effective, right? I've actually said those words.
Yeah. That was me as well previously. I come from a startup background, so I'm a former founder.
Got it. So we're in that mindset. And you made the shift. How do you teach someone who's all in their head to maybe get into their body?
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard. And I think, honestly, I think it takes some degree of suffering. I think I describe it as like a feather brick dump truck process where in the beginning, maybe you're like tickled with a feather, and then it's a brick. Maybe, you wake up exhausted and you're unable to get out of bed, or you lose your job. And then maybe the dump truck is like Lyme disease or chronic health issue or something majorly breaks so that you can no longer continue going about, with the same map, the same mental models. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it was easier, but that's often what I see. I think the other way that is maybe certainly more efficient is noticing that it's actually not working when you're just in your head, and that making disembodied decisions are often much worse decisions. Relationships are more shallow. There is often less capacity to meet life. And often people are living in this place of reactivity instead of being more intentional and living with agency. And, a lot of these folks I work with, they care a lot about being high agency people. Mm-hmm. And when you point out that, when you're triggered, when you're in a place of reactivity, your window of tolerance is smaller, but your capacity to make non-binary decisions is reduced. Your capacity to make decent decisions at all is highly reduced. And so even from that lens, there's like, interesting. And I think that kind of like plants a seed that then once they've had an experience of, feeling an emotion and actually feeling better on the other side, then that's where the journey kind of goes. Mm. How have you, how do you answer that question?
It comes down to energy allocation, right? Uh-huh. So your body makes some amount of energy that's available, and where you're going to put it, right? Mm-hmm. Where I've arrived after just talking with thousands of people, looking at their brainwaves and just going really deep, is that thinking is a trauma response, and empathy is a trauma response. So you get some people who didn't feel safe when they were a kid, which happens to most of us, because there's times even the best parents, they almost drop you, or they didn't know you had to do whatever. Like it's just a thing. Mm-hmm. So you might learn, well, I'll be safest if I can feel everyone's emotions around me. Mm-hmm. Right. So then you grow up to become a healer who takes on everyone's feelings. Right. And you can't stop it. Yeah. Right. I always say like, do you really want empathy if you're, at McDonald's? Do you want to feel everyone's feelings waiting in line, craving a Big Mac? I don't think so.
Yeah. I'd say the distinction there is like empathy at the expense of your own experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Turning the ability to turn on empathy when you want to is a skill.
Yeah.
The ability to, or not the ability, the automatic turning on of empathy without your consent is a trauma response. Mm-hmm. And then other people, probably more like you and I would guess, when we're young, we learn that we can think our way out of problems. We're safer if we can think. So we place great value on the cognitive side of things. Mm-hmm. And when people are truly free, when something happens inside your body, this interoception, you feel something. You don't have to become empathetic. You don't have to think. And you don't do either one automatically. You can choose to do either one, or you can choose to just sit there and just allow whatever comes in to come in. Mm-hmm. And that's where my most creative work comes in. It's when I'm not thinking about it. I'm not trying to solve the problem. I'm allowing the problem to solve itself while I just be. But that's high-level spiritual stuff. Mm-hmm. It's what the Buddhists are trying to teach in the monasteries, right? So that's the challenge, is to teach the thinkers to not think automatically. Yeah. And it's to teach the feelers to not feel automatically. Yeah. Because that's what presence is.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I think of it as like not believing everything you think. And it's thoughts are great, but when you're attached, like overly attached or like clenched to the thoughts, I've been playing with this lens of unclenching recently. Yes. And I think that so much of what I teach with nervous system mastery can to some degree be boiled down to, can you notice the tension and learn how to unclench? Yeah. And you can apply this in, a really obvious example is you're about to go into a cold plunge. Mm-hmm. And the moment before you get into the cold water, your entire body just is like this. Yeah. And it sucks. Like when you go in cold water and you're resisting it, it's really challenging. But if you can relax and kind of unclench your fist a bit, the cold isn't so bad. Yeah. And it's exactly the same with any feeling, any emotion, any experience that you're resisting. That is what is causing the suffering. And I think people mistake the emotion for their resistance to it, for the way they clench to it is like what they think the emotion is. So most people haven't experienced an emotion without the clenching.
There's this art of surrender is what that really comes down to. Mm-hmm. And if you want to have a really bad trip on a psychedelic, fight it, and you're gonna get the lesson. Yeah. And if you surrender, then you don't have a bad journey.
Let go or be dragged is the phrase.
And you get into the cold water and you just accept it. Yeah. It doesn't hurt. And if you fight it, it hurts. Yeah. Right. And it's that fine line of learning how to just be surrendered. But it's scary to be surrendered, right?
It's terrifying.
Yeah, we learn not to do that.
It's terrifying.
We had it about 3-4 years ago. Added ketamine as an option for the neurofeedback at 40 Years Zen. It's the world's first psychedelic assisted neurofeedback. In fact, I just am now putting on Wonderland, which is the second largest psychedelic conference.
Great name.
In the country. Oh, thank you. And it's here in Austin in October. And we've got, Paul Stamets and Rick Doblin from MAPS speaking. And it's such an honor. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is exactly that. It's surrender. And it can be breath work. It can be cold. It can be anything where you just say, okay, there's a feeling. I'm just going to let it in. But I have a question for you. I haven't tried free diving. I've always thought it sounded interesting, but you've gone down 120 feet on one breath. So you're at the bottom of the ocean. There's a lot of water above you.
Yeah.
So how do you handle surrender when you're underwater and your I need to breathe now light comes on?
Yeah. So I love talking about this. I'm obsessed with free diving, and I think of it as actually like high stakes meditation.
I love that.
Because
it's driving 100 miles an hour.
There are significant non-trivial consequences if you clench when you're 100 feet plus underwater.
Right.
And so the way that freediving works is you kind of bob on the surface like a jellyfish. You relax yourself as much as possible. You kind of scan your body, and it's like a meditation. And you notice tension, then you release tension. And you take a huge breath, and you start kind of pulling yourself underwater on this line. And as you get deeper, the ocean pressure increases, and so there's less space internally. And in order to equalize, you have to notice the tension inside and then soften it. And that allows you to equalize, which allows you to go deeper. And so there's this beautiful feedback loop where the depth that you're able to get to is a direct reflection of how in tune with your interoception you are, and then how efficiently you can unclench.
Wow.
And so it's like this beautiful training. And on top of that, there's a way in which, when you take a huge breath, there's this very deep stillness that exists down there that's similar to, we were talking a bit about the jhanas before we hit record. It's like this kind of fourth jhana, deep equanimity, deep kind of expansiveness. And touching that, it's just a profound experience. And so I love the fact that you kind of have this direct feedback loop, whereas with meditation, it's such an internal thing. It's very hard to kind of say objectively, he's meditating better than so-and-so.
Yeah.
But I love freediving for that reason. It's just, it was my way into breathwork, which was then my way into all of this work.
So you're at the bottom of the ocean and you haven't breathed. How long does it take to get down to 120 feet? Like a minute or two?
It's like a minute and a half, yeah.
Okay. So 90 seconds, you've been holding your breath. There's no possible way to breathe without probably dying.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
You surrender, you relax, you completely relax. And I noticed that and at moments when I clench, it's like that's the edge of my practice. It's like when I get to a certain depth where it's hard to equal. Okay, it's like, okay, tune in, drop in.
Well, you don't do that.
Oh, you don't do that, yeah. Well, I mean, you do like, you kind of equalize.
Okay.
And then there's like a, for me, usually the tension is kind of my lower belly.
Okay.
And so I kind of drop in there and then relax it, and then the breath can go and I can keep going down.
Wow.
And you look up and it's like, that's a long way up. But I mean, I so before you do that, you do static training or like static apnea. And I went from having a 90-second breath hold to, it was 6.5 minutes.
Wow.
Just through essentially scanning my body, looking for tension and then relaxing into the tension. And, most people wouldn't imagine they could hold their breath for 6.5 minutes. And so I think the breath as well is a really beautiful feedback loop or mirror for how much tension is there in your system.
And this is a quick a PSA about breath holding. If you're learning this stuff or just practicing even Wim Hof style breathing, don't do it in water without a friend. Just because sometimes you pass out, and passing out in water is bad.
Yeah, no one ever free dives on their own.
Yeah.
You always do it with a buddy.
Yeah. It's important. Even just for lighter weight breath work, there's a meaningful number of people pass away every year because they get a little too hypoxic and pass out in the cold water. So no, don't do that. Actually, I say don't do that without friends because it kind of is awesome to do it. But
Add friends, makes everything better.
Exactly. Okay. And when I look at things like, actually, I spoke with Danica Patrick about this when she was on the show, and how when you're driving, 200 miles an hour, right? You don't think about it. It's the same high stakes meditation. Like you're in the zone and you just trust the body to know what to do because you cannot possibly make a decision.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a very similar vibe.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. I love that.
Wow. Okay. One of the concepts you talk about that's really cool is the half-life of reactivity. What is that?
Yeah. So I think it's really difficult to meaningfully measure progress on what I call the path of nervous system mastery of inner work. And I think reducing the half-life of reactivity is one of the best objective metrics, kind of coming back to the people that are very like top-down rational. They like to be able to like see the end goal. And so for me, reducing the half-life of reactivity means going from, let's say someone says something to you that pisses you off. You get angry, you get in this reactive state. Maybe that lasts for like, for some people it's like a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks. Maybe something really pisses you off. And for some people, it can even be months. And I think that as a result of cultivating these skills of interoception, self-regulation, emotional fluidity, you can reduce that half-life in the same way that kind of uranium has a half-life. You can reduce it down from 2 weeks to 2 days to 2 hours to 2 minutes, maybe even to 2 seconds.
That's a great way of tracking your progress. I've never heard that before. In my last book and just at 40 Years in here, I always teach, if you can be triggered, it means you're carrying a loaded gun and my finger's on the trigger.
Yeah, that's great. That's so great. Yeah.
And that always makes the people who are most likely to be triggered, which is anti-gun vegans.
Super.
Man, they get very, very angry.
That's why they go to the Anchor Workshop.
I'm like, oh, you need steak and bullets.
That's excellent.
But the idea of okay, you got triggered, but you got triggered just for a little while, or maybe to a lesser degree. And that's part of the path of learning to just be not triggered. Like I would be incredibly amused and intrigued if you could say something that triggered me. Because it means, there's something I missed, and I'd go and I'd do my process on that.
Yeah.
And the whole like spiritual progression thing for me is ultimately anything that's a trigger, there's a reason, go in and reprogram the nervous system.
Right.
And then you can sit in a boardroom and people do all sorts of just stupid crap, right? And it becomes like,
interesting.
I wonder if he's trying to piss me off, right? Or if he's just like traumatized, or like what's, what maybe he's just dumb, right? But it isn't, there's no like negative emotion behind it. It's just more curiosity and wonder and all that. And then you do whatever the right thing to do is, but you do it from a place of power and a place where you're peaceful instead of a place of anger.
Totally.
Because the kind of people who like to piss you off, which are narcissists or sociopaths, narcissists, they do it because it feeds them, and sociopaths because it amuses them. But if they can't get anything from you because you never get mad at them,
it's like a samurai like striking water. It's like the blade doesn't contact.
Exactly. And I think as a founder of multiple companies, that's one of the most precious things you can have, or as a parent, right? I mean, you have a new baby, what, 5-6 months old?
5 months old, yeah.
5 months old. Wow. Yeah. And what's her name?
Eliana,
beautiful. Yeah. So the only thing about babies that age that pisses you off is when you're like, I just want to sleep. There's going to come a time around 2 where she just says no to everything. And like, I just need to get out the door. Like, we're going to be late again and all this stuff. No. That's a whole growth curve. All parents experience that. We're like, wow, that shouldn't really make me mad. This is a 2-year-old, but like there's a limit, right? The hack for that, by the way, you want to know what it is?
Tell me, please.
So you look at her when she's saying no all the time and you say, we don't say yes. And then their little brains are like, and they go, yes. And you go, I made you say it. It's so fun. That's like your one dad win for that year. Oh, man.
Great. I think the thing that I want to add to that is, I don't know that it's like, yes, to aspire to never be triggered at all, I think is beautiful. And for me, I certainly haven't reached that place yet. I think the triggers just become more and more subtle.
Does that piss you off?
It does. Well,
sorry, that was funny.
Kinda. I mean, in a way, it would be nice to just get to this place where I'm this like, serene, enlightened place. But I think the mistake that I made was thinking that mistaking calm on the surface for kind of not being triggered. When my response, my response was often, if I get into an argument with my wife, she will be the one who's kind of aggressive, and I will be the one that kind of like closes off and defends. And I might appear like calm and stoic, but that just annoys her even more.
Oh yeah.
And I think recognizing that in myself, that like there are these much more subtle ways in which I protect myself and kind of close myself off, and then not making the goal never be triggered, but just like accepting that as humans, we're likely to be triggered in small or large ways, and just knowing that progress is like, how quickly can I notice, and how quickly can I notice the subtleties of it? Yeah. And then come back into connection.
Yeah, there's a way to stop that when she's like really reactive, and that just use the key phrase, isn't that cute? If you just say that when they're really mad, it always works. Just
you want to try that?
That's my inner troublemaker. The goal isn't, it's not to never be triggered. It's to notice when you're triggered and to realize it's your fault. And for me, then the practice is to go in and find the root of the trigger. And if the trigger doesn't serve me, then to turn it off. So the idea that I used to have was that, okay, I'm going to, I'm 35, big entrepreneur or whatever. So I'm going to go to a board meeting, right? And someone's going to say something that pisses me off, right? And instead of showing it, I've got my game face on and you do all the things. And the problem is that there's something called congruence that we don't talk about enough in the West. And congruence is when your outer state and your inner state match, right? So what a lot of entrepreneurs do, especially in the world of business or in, high stakes, like European royalty, the whole like political realm, is everyone knows you're pissed off, but you smile, right? But the mismatch creates distrust. And it's when the same thing happens and you act like you're not triggered because you're not triggered, then everyone looks at that and goes, holy shit, that guy's powerful, right? So you end up kind of running the room because you're coherent, because you're congruent, because you cannot be unseated by things that should have unseated you. And a lot of, especially in tech and a lot of men, we're so heady that we're all in our brains, but your body is still reading everyone's fields. Your body knows whether the person is triggered or not, right? And some of us are better at hiding it than others, but you can still tell when you got someone, even if they're acting right.
Totally. And you can't, what I think I hear you saying is you can't fake that. No. And I guess the only way that you can get to the point of not faking it is by letting yourself feel all of the shit that everyone else is afraid to feel. If
you let yourself feel it and you feel it fully, and then you go in and you do, in my teaching, it's forgiveness. You actually forgive whatever created the pattern, not the person in front of you. You can create them. You can forgive them if you want to. And forgiveness isn't telling them you forgive them. It's just turning off the reactive patterns. And the more I find reactive patterns, the more I turn them off, then the more energy that I have to notice other reactive patterns. So it's like increasing dividends on that. And I don't think I would actually be sitting here. I'd probably be in jail or something, given that $100 million lesson I got from we'll say, incredibly stupid and probably evil decisions. But I had this
evil.
I had this juvenile belief that if incentives were aligned, even bad people, or whatever you want to call them, traumatized people, narcissists, whatever, that they would still act in their self-interests. So it's like the deal on the table is, I make 100 million, you make 100 million. It's a pretty good deal. So even if you think I'm an asshole, you're still going to take your 100 million. But I didn't understand that for traumatized people, that for some of them, if I make anything, they lose. and had a situation where a CEO in the company had I found out in legal proceedings, had a $2 million, what I would characterize as a bribe. And it appears that it was more important that I lose than that he and the investors make 100 million. So he was happy to make 2 million as long as I lost 100 million. Like, what is going on with this? And so I used to have a lot of anger about that, and I've gotten over it with the lesson thing. But the other thing that brought me great peace was I thought there were a lot of evil people, and there are some, but there's more stupid people than evil people. Do you know about this book, The Basic Laws of Human Stupidity?
Dude, it's a great title.
It's a Berkeley economics professor in the 1920s. And he said, you know what? The definition of stupidity is an academic definition. It's people who do things that provide no value to them or negative value and create negative value for others. Because there's no intelligent reason you should ever do that. So a pickpocketer is not stupid, right? They benefited at your expense, right? They're just, out of integrity or evil or whatever you want to call them. But someone who takes your wallet and just throws it in the river and looks at you like nobody won in this transaction, right? That's a stupid person. And so this whole book, it's only an hour to read it or to listen to it. They go through and explain why that if you're not stupid, you can't conceive of stupid people, because how could there be such a thing?
Yeah, I see.
And so one of my mistakes was I didn't understand the power of stupidity, and I didn't understand the power of narcissism. And so those were lessons I really needed, right? It actually helped me think better of the world, because it's not all evil people. It's a substantial number of people who will do things that don't help them and harm others, and there's no reason for it.
Right. And I think even, narcissism, for example, which is, I think, a spectrum. Like, we all have narcissistic tendencies to some degree.
Especially CEOs.
Yes. Yeah. And, what I think that is really the inability to feel is what a lot of it comes down to. And yes, they do terrible things that harm people. And you can say this is really bad behavior, but I think it, again, invites more compassion if you can see, okay, this person is probably really suffering.
Oh, they are.
Probably doesn't have, much compassion from other people. And they are in some ways rationally playing out what you do if you're unable to kind of feel what is going on internally. And again, it doesn't justify the behavior, but I think for me, it helps to explain why we see some of the stuff we see.
You're totally right. A narcissist has a worldview that is actually not accurate. And anything that threatens the worldview causes them emotional pain. And rather than deal with the pain, they'd rather destroy you. So
because
then
you're threatening the worldview.
Yeah. And that's just too painful for them.
Yeah.
I had one exec when I was at Bulletproof, and guys, if you're listening and you haven't heard in a while, I have nothing to do with that company anymore. Danger Coffee is my new company. But this executive looked me and the board in the face every week for a year and said that she was on track to lose $4 million and grow 40%, which was fine. I had $30 million in the bank.
Okay.
At the end of the year, she looks at me and says, oopsie, I lost $28 million. And I'm like, did you burn through 3 years of venture capital in 1 year and never tell me you're the board? Like, all the numbers were fiction? And I don't know what happened. I never fail. I'm a good girl, essentially, which is the narcissistic worldview. And when we let this executive go, she looked me straight in the eye and said, you should give me more stock options. And I'm like, what universe is this? It's just trauma.
Bold.
It's just trauma.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even coming from a place of self-awareness. Right. And so I can have compassion for that person. And also I have boundaries. Like, I wouldn't hire that person again. So I got a lesson in, a really big lesson in having good boundaries. And like, when I look back, there were all these red flags, behavioral red flags. I hadn't ever known to look for those before, because they don't teach that in business school. Right. And they're hard to see. And when you enter this path of nervous system regulation, the way that you're teaching it, you become aware of this stuff. You become aware of what other people do, and then how you react to it, right? So where do you feel it, like, in your body somatically, if someone is out of integrity?
It's interesting. I mean, I like what you said about the inner and outer congruence. And I think that my body will clench a little bit if I... And it won't be obvious what the reason is necessarily.
Yes.
It's just like, it's like feedback of like something here is off or something here isn't being said. And it, it applies just as much in my marriage, where I will notice if like something in me between us feels like it's a little bit like, again, like clenched. And what I've learned to do now is to just say that, be like, I don't know what it is, but maybe one of us isn't saying something, or maybe there's some resentment that's been built up on my side or her side, but can we explore it? Can we get curious about it? And that, I mean, when I'm able to do that, which isn't all of the time, but fuck me, that just saves a lot of suffering. and again, I've learned like maybe not as expensive lessons as you, but expensive in terms of like emotional like pain.
Money is just money, but pain is real. So
yeah.
I would prefer to learn through painful and less economic lessons than I did. Maybe I'm
that
just
seems
really
to be your
stubborn.
path, is through learning lessons through losing money.
It certainly was. Not anymore. I think I switched paths.
Nice.
There is something about intuition, and I love that you bring up your relationship. My experience is that women are generally more intuitive than men. And men have great intuition. We can cultivate it, but women have hardware for intuition that men don't have, right? Because women have much higher mitochondrial density in the reproductive tract than men have anywhere in the bodies. And mitochondria are the frontline sensors of really of quantum reality through microtubules. So I know that when I'm in the hiring process, I have two members of my team, both women, who are very highly intuitive. And if they say something doesn't feel right with this hire, I won't hire them. I don't have to know the reason. Like, I've just learned these are trustworthy people. And if I get a bad sense on someone and they're like, we should hire him, I'm like, no. And I used to say, well, it's, if it's your hire, you get to do it. I might be wrong. We just now require unanimous cognitive belief, but also unanimous, we're not getting red flags in our interoception.
Yep.
And it's really shifted the hiring process.
I love that. My teacher, breathwork teacher, Ed, he would take every new hire through a breathwork journey. And you could notice where the dysregulation is in someone's system. And he would use that to identify red flags by kind of reading the breath pattern. And he would, I think, do that for his friends basically before they made big hires as a kind of like subtle way of vetting people. So yeah, I mean, I think that's super smart. And when I think everyone probably has a story of like when they haven't listened to their intuition and it hasn't gone well, when they've everything looks good on paper and they've proceeded, but then something happens down the line that's like, oh, I kind of felt that before, but I didn't have the courage, frankly, to proceed even when I didn't have this good gut feeling. Because it takes courage if you don't have a good reason necessarily. Like, you're hiring. Yeah. They might be great on paper. They might be like technically very, very competent. But if you say no, then there's a cost to that, right?
Yep. Yeah, there's a cost, because you got to hire someone else, but also because then your team feels like you don't trust them and all that. But with the right team dynamic, like we value that red flag sense because we've all hired bad people and just watched the chaos they sow, right? And maybe they're not bad people. Maybe they're just bad hires, but some of them actually were bad people. There is such a thing. Now, you've actually joked that having a wearable that beeps before you make a bad decision would be great. How do you build that into your system?
I think it takes, what's the best way to say this? I think it requires some degree of spaciousness in your life, whether that's a morning practice of some sort, whether it's going for walks in the afternoon, but it requires a period of time of the day when you're not constantly stimulating yourself and taking information in, because when we're in this adrenalized kind of sympathetic go state, that the adrenaline and cortisol literally numbs the interoception. Right. So it's harder to listen to your body when you're in this kind of hyperactive state. And if you contrast that with doing something like a nidra practice or NSDR, your level of interoception after that will be much, much, much heightened. And so I think, for me, if you're someone who values high quality decision making, then making that part of your practice or part of your routine where you actually have the time and space to tune in. And it's different for everyone. Some people, they like to do it when they're walking, when they're active, maybe when they're meditating. I think it looks different for everyone, but having some spaciousness in your life, even if you're incredibly busy, is a very high ROI.
I love that answer. I always think it's kind of funny, like rebranding Yoga Nidra as NSDR is just funny. Like it's exactly the same thing, but one sounds more technical.
I mean, it's Huberman, right? He's
yeah. I had him on the show before he started his podcast.
Yeah.
But it's like,
but it works. I think honestly that the different branding, it appeals to a different subset of people, even though, as you say, it's an identical practice.
Yeah, I like to share credit when I can with in the world of biohacking, like we validate ancient practices and then we can instrument them and measure them and say, do they work? Can they be improved? And some of them just don't work that we can tell, right? So there are things that just came into practice that were not intelligent. And then there are things that are incredibly intelligent that we thought were dumb until we measured them. One of my favorite ones is I read the Taoist stuff about semen retention for men. And this is the idea of don't ejaculate so you save energy. You can still orgasm, you can still have lots of sex, you just don't ejaculate. And I'm like, this sounds like total BS. So I tried to disprove it for a year. And ultimately I'm like, okay, these guys were right, right? And
goddamn Mantak Chia.
Yeah, exactly. And so it still makes people mad when I say like, there's no science. I'm like, actually there is science. The fact that you don't know about the science or you don't want there to be science doesn't actually change whether there's science or not.
Right.
Like if that triggers you, then maybe you should probably feel your feelings around not ejaculating.
So I think that's an interesting point because I'm on the fence about this. I think that there might be value in creating what I think of as like Trojan horses. Breathwork is a fantastic Trojan horse.
Oh, yeah.
Because people are like, oh, it's just breathing. Like how intense could it be? Like there's some science around it. And then they do it and they have a powerful experience which might change their life.
Yeah.
And I think that NSDR potentially could be the same. And I think that people, this is my view, people project some degree of almost like religion onto science and onto kind of RCTs and being told like what the correct protocol is. And I think that it's great for getting your foot in the door if you're someone who needs that in the beginning.
Right.
And so I'm kind of okay with that being the case. And then I feel like the more people go down this path, the more their woo Overton window just kind of expands.
Yeah.
Until they're doing like semen retention and energy work and Reiki and all those things that are like further down the field.
It's like you can try this stuff and either it works for you or it doesn't. And
yeah,
the sad thing about RCTs and everything is, so for the average human, there's a bell-shaped curve. And if you're in the middle for that one thing, cool. But if you're someone who's at either end of the curve of whatever they're measuring, it won't work for you, but it does work for the average person. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. And it means any politician is going to tell you, you have to do it because it works for the average man.
Yeah.
Dude, my goal is to be not average at anything, right? I'm fine to be below average or above average. I just don't want to be right in the middle because it's boring.
And it's not great for women as well.
Yeah.
There's just not many studies on women at all.
Oh, I actually wrote the equation for women because the Taoists never wrote an equation. They said, well, women, they walk away undiminished from orgasms. So I did a whole bunch of research on it, and the magic number for longevity for women is the number of orgasms until you feel like you're just going to die plus 2, right? And
that's a great chatterblind if you ever.
and like right now, 80% of women are like smiling, going, "Oh my God, that's so true," and then 20% are like, "How dare he say that?" And if I triggered you with that, may I humbly suggest that you go have several orgasms.
It's one way to process emotions for sure.
It was actually a whole chapter in my heavily meditated book was that this sacred connection with a partner, 20% of people report meeting God during really intimate sex. And so if we're going to talk about breath work, we're going to talk about psychedelics and darkness and caves and all this stuff, you got to talk about this like sacred thing that most adults do as one of the gateways to interoception. And if you want to feel where you have resistance, like you have resistance to feeling all of the pleasure and surrender that comes with really, really safe partnership. And just because it's so titillating, we don't talk about that much in the West, but it's as valid of a path as, you know, some of these poor guys like, I've done, you know, ayahuasca God bombs 87 times. I'm like, when are you going to notice it's not working?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Jamie Will calls it hedonic engineering is his Trojan horse way of talking about the it's like orgasm as that path.
He absolutely does. I haven't talked to Jamie in a while. I should have him back on the show. He's a fun guy. Many years ago at the start of the biohacking movement, I was the first investor in what was then the Flow Genome Project.
Cool.
And so I've always been fascinated with what they're doing. And it's like all of the things in the human condition, if you have a resistance or a trigger, the goal is to figure it out. And And you talked about the half-life, like how long is the trigger? And for me, the goal is to get to the point where in real time, I'm processing all that stuff where I don't have to have a half-life or like, oh, look, how cute, a trigger, right? And then it's gone, right? And then to at some point go back and be like, you know, that was a small one, but what's the point of having that on? It would be the equivalent of going into your phone and just turning off all of the alerts except for the ones that were actually useful, right? I just want to do that in my nervous system. And I have come to this is 25 years of doing neurofeedback and studying with meditation masters and all that, and 6 months of my life with electrodes on my head, which really helped me sense interoception, even the subtle nuances. It's really, really hard to trigger me now, right? And I'm super grateful for that. And anytime I do get triggered, I'm like, wow, I found another one. Like, when will this ever end? The answer is never. But it's always old programming and not what I expected. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, as leaders, our capacity to handle suffering is the thing that defines whether you're going to be a good entrepreneur or not. Right? It's like, wow, things really suck, and I'm still going to do it. Right. And Elon talks about that, how like being an entrepreneur is like eating broken glass every day because you get all the crap that no one else can solve. And my experience just as an investor is that the highly resilient people do it. And resilience can come from toughness, which takes energy, or it can come from efficient allocation of energy. So you have more capacity because you don't waste energy on getting triggered by all of your childhood traumas every day. Right.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I love that, and I think that there are different arenas of life. For me, the biggest arenas are business, intimate relationships, and now I think probably parenthood. I think those three arenas are basically vehicles for surfacing the triggers, and I think viewing those almost like intentionally of like, yes, I have dreams and goals and desires, but part of why I'm doing this is to surface these things, knowing that like as I meet my edge, as I grow bigger and bigger companies, there's going to be new levels and new edges where those like internal clenches will still arise. And like you say, some of them you can probably just like rewrite in a moment, and others, for me, I might notice it and be like, this is too much for me to feel. I'm gonna this weekend do a breathwork journey, do some kind of process and like really feel through the stuff that's there. But I think that is the process, and it creates there's so much more joy, and I think you can be successful in either path. Like there are many entrepreneurs that have very successful companies, but they're miserable. Absolutely miserable.
I get a lot of those.
And there's people for whom they've kind of unclenched, and the desire to create is coming from enjoyment, and it's like, I just want to make this thing happen because it's so cool.
Yes.
And I think you can change the fuel source, but it takes work and courage.
Yeah.
And it certainly doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, the first half of my career, especially in Silicon Valley, was all that first.
Yeah.
I'm going to be good enough. I'm going to dominate, and and lots of emotions that I didn't recognize behind that motivation.
Right. And you were probably successful on paper from that as well.
Yeah, I was miserable, but I was successful.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the career has just been like, I'm doing it because I think it's beautiful, and people don't have to agree, right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
And having worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, as you have, on this kind of stuff, It's shocking what happens when they get clarity. A friend came through 40 years of Zen. It runs a 1,200 person company. And he's like, oh my God, all my success is because I was bullied in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And then you shift it.
Yeah.
That's my friend Craig. And you shift it and you go, oh, wow. Success is easier if I'm not being responsive to that.
Yes.
Right. Because I'm just doing, what I think is right.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to be at that point in my life. And we'll see. I think it's going to stick.
I hope so. I mean, yeah, I think people are afraid of maybe losing their edge when they kind of go, they're like, oh, the anger is what fuels me.
Yeah.
And maybe there is a period where like that initial motivation goes away, but then this, for me at least, this much deeper motivation kind of takes its place that I think is much more sustainable.
Anger is a great spark, but if it's your fuel source, it'll burn you up. It's not a good long-term fuel, but if it gets you motivated, like, oh my God, this is so stupid, I should fix it. Well, there you go. You just start another company. Yeah. You're working on a breathwork device, right? Tell me about it.
Yeah. We haven't launched it yet, but it's funny you found this. It's called Breath Buddy. And yeah, we've just got the prototypes at the moment. It's basically a weighted manta ray.
Oh wow!
I haven't talked about this publicly yet, but the idea is that when I guide people through breath work, towards the end, help them downshift, we put like weighted sandbags on their lower belly.
Yeah.
And it really helps with relaxing. Like it's probably one of the most effective ways to access deep parasympathetic is by having a weight on your low belly and breathing in and then letting the weight push the air out.
Wow. I've seen that in a few restorative yoga classes. Like they'll put a bolster on your belly for that reason.
Yeah, right.
But you're using a sandbag equivalent.
Exactly. So we're combining a weighted plush toy. It was like a cute manta ray, and it's going to be for families basically. So there'll be a kid size, there'll be an adult size, and basically to help families with processing emotions and accessing like relaxation at the end of a stressful day.
And teaching little kids to do that is so cool. You'll see pretty soon when you tell your daughter to take a deep breath, she'll go, and you're like, and you actually have to teach them what a deep breath is. And I taught mine with a heart rate variability device. I call it the magic fairy breathing game. Right? and so it was so cute. My son's 5 would take a deep breath, he'd go. I'm like, that is so impressive. And it was so much better for his nervous system. But I had never even thought, but if he'd have had like the breath buddy, like a weighted plush toy to really help him drop into his,
and it helps with interoception too as well.
Yeah,
you feel the feedback from your lower belly.
How cool is that? I think you're going to do well with that.
Thank you. I hope so.
Well, Jonny, thanks for coming on the show. It's been super cool. Where can people find out more about your work?
Yeah, so the best place is the website of Nervous System Mastery, which is just nsmastery.com.
Okay.
There's a great assessment on there we've just rebuilt, and that'll give people a sense of where they're at in terms of these skills that we talked about, of interoception, self-regulation, emotional fluidity. And then what I've tried to do is create personalized practices based on that, because what I see is that a lot of people get like generic nervous system advice, but because everyone's system is different, we've worked really hard to personalize the recommendations based on the assessment results. So that's probably the best place to entry into the nervous system world, and then there's more from there as well.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Dave. This has been super fun.
See you next time on the Human Upgrade Podcast.